keeping context in mind. Everything we do or think exists within a context. Life swirls around us and our work. We do not write or produce work in a vacuum, though some of us might think we do, such as our family members who don't read our books. But that's okay. Hello, and welcome back to my writing journey. I'm Ellen Byerrum, a former Washington, D.C. reporter and author of books, articles, plays, and short stories. Like you, I'm working to finish another book right now, the sequel to my Art Deco mystery, Crook Tales for Two. In these videos, I comment on writing, news about the industry, and some other issues that occur to me. If that sounds of interest to you, well, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and give this video a like. And if you don't want to miss any, please ring the little bell to be notified of new videos, which I do about every week. We are living in unprecedented times, and I'm sure there are a lot of folks out there closing their eyes to it, yada, 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 and their ears. As the Chinese would have it, these are interesting times, meaning they are cursed. Whether we think so or not, our stories reflect our lives and the times in which we live. Yes, writing can also be an act of purposefully ignoring the times we think. Maybe an author decides to write a children's book set in a magical forest and shut the rest of the world out. But then we find out that the book was written with a desire to escape reality, a war, a plague. That is the context in which they wrote. Another author creates a historical romance because he or she wants to forget the present, to create a world of comfort, of fancy dresses and balls where they can imagine themselves waltzing with the most attractive person in the room. They ignore the poverty and disease of that time and the poor people who wore clothes until they fell off in tatters. Yes, we pick and we choose. And for every woman who creates a Regency romance with yet another fictitious duke who is obsessed with the rules of private clubs and their menus, I would like to remind them the British were not just heroically tangling with Bonaparte. In America, the War of 1812 was ongoing, and it was taking its toll, and would result in our complete freedom, finally. The British were kidnapping and impressing U.S. men into their navy. It's not really so romantic as you suspect. But something is driving people to write this story. What is the writer's context, their backstory? It might be more interesting than the tale they tell. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy reading those books. I simply wonder why there are so many dukes. And I keep hearing the song from, I don't know, 60s, 50s, the Duke of Earl in my head. You know which one, the Duke. Now, a writer might pen a story set during the 1930s, but never mention the Depression by name. However, you find out that some characters are living in poverty. There is not enough flour to make bread, and the villain comes back to foreclose on the mortgage on the property and take the land. These stories betray the writer's grasp of history and hard times and melodrama. They don't have to call it the Depression. And yes, my current work does take place in late 1934, right after Prohibition ends, and I'm going with the glamorous part of the 30s, the clothes, the theater, the romance, the bad guys, the good guys. However, I also mention what's going on at the time, part of the context of the book. 1934 was a bad year for gangsters, and the death of Pretty Boy Floyd hit the headlines on Thanksgiving Day. Now, shifting gears, I am awed by authors who are eerily prescient, who in particular seem to write science fiction. Take 1984 by George Orwell, a book that has been filmed a couple times, or more, I don't know. When I was a child, I saw the older movie with Edmund O'Brien, and it scared me to death. With its totalitarian society covering up history and Big Brother popping up on every screen, in their business, in their bedrooms, and in our nightmares. Sadly, it seems even more prophetic today. Orwell wrote it during World War II as a warning against totalitarian societies. But have we been listening? Have we learned the lesson? I fear we're in for some bad times. The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick presents a parallel version of what would have happened in the USA if Germany and Japan had won the Second World War and Hitler did not die. I recommend both the book and the Amazon miniseries that will scare you to death. Both are terrifying, and that story couldn't have been written without the shadow of that horrible war. And then there's The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, which I couldn't finish because it upset me so much, and it is way too close to present day and the evil behind Project 2025 and its war on women. Woe betide us if we don't pay attention to the writers. And there are those of us who write murder mysteries, mostly because we want to see evil punished. We might not be able to make things right in the confines of our lives, but there is satisfaction in righting wrongs in our books and stories, presenting a different ending for our readers and the possibility that good can and will conquer evil. We can also take pleasure in describing our villains. That's a high point. He may be inexplicably orange with an outrageous comb-over, to be obese and smelly and resemble a bag of pus. This not-so-super villain also has the smallest wee willy winky on earth. In our books, we can make sure he is brought down by his avarice, his low IQ, and a smart woman. We can make sure, as the poet said, that this villain in death is unwept, unhonored, and unsung, and buried in an unmarked grave beneath a pile of trash. Although we might try, we can't ignore the world in which we live. And right, the world will find us, and it will find our writing. Reality will break out between the nouns and the verbs, and it will wink and hint at the truth behind our tales. Remember the context. That's all I have for now, and I'll see you next time. Bye.